Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast. Endurance Now Coaching, the relentless pursuit of excellence. Are you looking to increase your fitness level, get stronger, or reach a new goal? There are many people who share that same desire, but often life or injuries get in the way, and their progress slows or even stops. Professional coaching brings a unique element to staying focused, developing the right fitness and nutrition plan, and having a certified coach to help you stay on target and reach your goals. Zendurance Now helps you reach your goals through customized training plans, one-on-one consultation, and constant motivation. Whether you're a local or remote, we've got this. Visit www.zendurancenow.com and learn how we can help you.
Is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Well, Rob, I got to start off the show today with something I rarely have to do.
What is that, John?
I have to make a correction.
You're saying you were wrong on something?
I made a faux pas.
Uh-oh. Better than a faux bar, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's a faux pas. And yeah, I remember I was talking about it, and Nancy had listened to the show, and she said, "That doesn't sound right, John. There's something about that doesn't sound right." And I said, "I could see you on video."
You said that to Nancy?
No, I said I could see you on video right now.
Oh, hi, John.
Hey,
Connor's waving to you too. I don't know what I clicked. Hey, this is podcasting at the best. How do I turn that off? Is it this button? Try that.
There you go.
We don't want the sound to pixelate. So
right.
Little hands are swiping at things.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Nancy said that doesn't sound right, and she listens to the show, and I said, and I didn't, and she couldn't. She doesn't know that much about that area, so she couldn't really tell me what was wrong. She just didn't know it sounded right. And of course, someone picked right up on it in the. Well, actually, I got called out on a couple of things on last week's show, but the main thing that I have to make a correction. I had mentioned we were talking about metabolic syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I actually meant adrenal fatigue.
During the show, John, yeah. I was questioning that because I had, just by definition, whenever you started saying metabolic syndrome, like in the back of my mind, I was pretty sure that is a medical term with this collection of, but I didn't have the source material, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm not going to say anything,
and then stop me. Because I do that a lot, I'm old, so I'm old, so my brain gets fried sometimes, and I knew what I meant. People should just know what I mean. Right?
They should. If they go back and read every blog post you've had and listen to every episode that you've ever put out here and with Andrew, they will know your mindset and know where we should be going with things.
Well, I make mistakes every now and then.
At least you're man enough to admit it, John.
I admit it. Not in person, I don't admit it, but I admit it on here. Yeah, and I guess Brent called me out on the swim comments I made, and and this is kind of folds into what I wanted to talk about first, was this social approval.
Okay.
With the way the world is now, with Facebook and all these social media, everybody's posting everything they do, and the thing is, sometimes you're not going to agree with other people, right?
Right.
And especially about methods, and we've managed to kind of stay away from that for the most part in the group, which is good. I mean, people are able to disagree in the group without getting nasty, which I like.
Right.
And I prefer, and to be honest, I won't put up with any nastiness in there, as some have found out. I'll give them. Now, when you read the intro to the Facebook group, I say no warnings, but I have to give people warnings. And one recently, I said, okay, first warning. Knock it off. You can disagree as long as you do it, like Brett did.
So
right?
That's what you meant when you sent that to me. Got it, John. Okay.
Now you understand what I meant, right?
Now I get it.
Well, normally I'll send something like, and I think I said it to this person. It's like, I am in no mood today to put up with this. First warning.
Yeah.
No, but Brent did it the right way, So it's like, normally I agree with him. Basically, it was about the swimming stuff, and it really goes down to, sometimes because I'm talking off the cuff sometimes, and I know what I mean in my head, and it's not coming out the right way necessarily. And I understand that swimming is an important part of triathlons. Obviously I've done it myself. You do it. Everybody, we know how it affects other parts of the race.
Right.
The point I was trying to make was that, and I'm not sure it came across the right way, is that in the big scheme of things, if you've got an hour to train, I would rather you spend it doing a bike or a run than a swim.
Right.
But I understand how it affects everything.
And that's why you had said, and whoever hadn't seen the thread or went out and looked at it, we both were in agreement with the things he was bringing up and saying. If it's your weakest discipline, or if you and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the post up in front of me, but we both said, hey, what you're saying is right, and if you could make a couple of adjustments, and that ties back around, and I'm jumping, I'm sorry, to a post that's currently in the group from Dustin, where he is analyzing his race and says, he was beat by a guy by 6 minutes, and then overall was beat by 3 minutes. And as such, he wants to, he instantly signed up for his master swim, and he's going to work on that. And you and I have broke down and analyzed me even and my swimming between races, and what could I do, or hey, should I lay back, or should I go for it a little bit more? And personally, I just, like you said, and it's me, it's my opinion, my race strategy. I'm fine giving up 30 seconds or a minute on my swim to come out feeling refreshed, so I feel good running into transition, get on the bike, so I can really hammer on the bike, and that's my race strategy. And everybody has a different focus or what a strength or goal to go for.
Right. It all goes back to the original mantra that goes all the way back to Ironman Year One, which is swim calm, bike strong, run steady. And and I understand other people may not agree totally with that, but my strategy was always, and my very first coach was Christine Concepcion, KC. And that was her mantra. It's like her whole thing with me is just get through the swim as calmly as you can, because it freaks me out. It still does. I've been doing this for years. Still freaks me out. So her method with me was just stay calm. If you have to lose 4 minutes on the swim because you're swimming, let everybody go, you'll make it up.
Right.
Don't worry about that. Just get through it.
Right.
And with the idea that eventually I'll get better and better and better, and then I'll eventually be more comfortable with it. And it did happen, and then it kind of reverted on me for some reason. But that's the thing, is like, and I welcome in the Facebook group other opinions. I want you to say, as long as you don't come out and say, and rudely, you're wrong. Yeah. Because there is no wrong way. Everybody's different. Right.
Yeah. So, there's the matter of a difference of opinions, and it's a difference of priorities, and that's everything he said was, and we both agreed. Yeah, he said he had very valid points. Valid points,
and he's been doing it a long time, and he's a stand-up guy. He's not a rude guy, and he's a podium standard, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, so I would never tell him to change what's working very well.
Right, exactly. How do you tell him to change, right?
Right.
Before we get into the social idea, we have to do our concept of the week.
Go ahead.
And the concept of the week, when I put it out last week,
is that the new title? I thought the title was "Until We Find Something Better to Call It."
Okay, until we find something better to call it. In the original post, Amy Loewenthal had actually added a couple of things, and the first one she put in was ladders. But she's probably heard me talk about ladders, right?
Right.
Because I coach you very well what a ladder is.
Right. Do you want me to give I'm going to say my athlete opinion of them,
Yes.
and then you can give the actual, I'll say clinical or right definition.
Yeah.
So if somebody's talking about a ladder, I mean, logically, it's called a ladder because it's something that you're climbing up and then you climb back down. But whenever I like to look at my Garmin data afterwards. So actually, anytime you give me a ladder, I rename it in my Garmin as a pyramid. Because what I like, because whether it's on the bike, run, whatever. So if I'm on the bike, you'll tell me in different, sometimes it's go for X speed, maybe let's just say 10 miles an hour. Then it's going to for 5 minutes. Then it's 15 miles an hour. Then it's 20 miles an hour. That's if I'm on the trainer and I can control that.
Right.
And or the difference there is if you want me to go at a progressively harder workload, so that way we're tracking heart rate. So I'll basically have 5 minutes at whatever, and then you say go up a gear and try to keep the same cadence, the same everything.
Right.
So I'm trying to keep the same speed, same cadence, but with a harder workload. Since I don't have a power meter, I can't accurately measure that. You can't say go to a certain wattage. So that's how I go up so many gears. Usually you have 4 to 5 segments in it, then some sort of rest in the middle. Then I go back to that hardest and come back down a gear 5 minutes at a clip,
right? Some
sort of rest segment. And if sometimes that's the workout, one cycle, sometimes you double that. So usually for me, you have a ladder that with the warm up, cool down, it builds up and back down over an hour, and you double that to make it a 2-hour workout, sometimes in the winter for me.
Yeah.
Similar with a run, you would tell me to basically, run at a zone 2, zone 3, zone 4 if we're going by a heart rate, or you'll tell me to run so far at a certain pace. You'll start at a 10 and then a 9, then an 8, and then go back the other direction.
Exactly. Well, I can't explain it any better than that, So
yeah,
it depends on the workout.
I like calling them pyramids, but you call them ladders, and that's
right.
I believe the correct term.
Yeah, well, I call them ladders because that's what KC did.
Right.
So that's how I was coached initially. So that's what I've always called them.
Right.
Yeah, and the idea, and I mean, if you're a Garmin user and you know how to build a workout, it's really easy to do that then, because especially on a run, it's really a lot harder to do that in the swim because you can't watch your watch. Things like that. I've never really tried to build that kind of workout in a swim. I don't know how it would work. I guess it would still work.
What I've done, and this nothing with you, but years and years ago when I was first training for my first half Ironman, I was using free training plans from beginnertriathlete.com, and they had an interesting swim workout. And just to keep it easy, they had what they called EBEH, easy build, easy hard.
Right.
And the theory with that, and that made it simple. That was a 4 lap set, if you will. And the first one you would go easy. The second one you try to almost like you're picking up your pace with a run, you pick up the pace on the swim. Every stroke you try to go a little bit harder, so that way your last stroke coming back on the second length is maximum effort. Then you have an easy lap to get your heart rate under control. Then you have one that you just go an all-out sprint. Yeah. And it was a pretty decent, similar, but it was like almost like a mini ladder set, because you were just doing that over, the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and I think that's easier to kind of gauge. If I tell you 50 yards easy, 50 yards build, 50 yards easy, 50 yards hard, mentally you can deal with that. And now it's all relative too. If I tell you hard and your first hard set might be a little bit faster than your last hard set, but right, because now you're talking about it's all relative pace. You're going to tire out eventually, but
right.
I mean, it's basically a speed workout. I look at it like that. You're trying to get it up to a gear and go as hard as you can, and then even make it harder, and keep going, and then make it harder and keep going, and make it harder and keep going. Right. I've talked about before on here, maybe on this show, I don't remember, but one of the best workouts, I read it on the science of something, and it was basically how to get the bang for your buck, maximum for the minimum.
Right.
And the bike workout was you put it to a gear that was so hard you had to almost stand to get the pedals going on a trainer, and you would do that. So you had to get out of the saddle and just pump it like that for a minute. and then get to the easiest gear and just like spin it for a minute and then do it again and then spin it for a minute and do it again and do it 5 times and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
I think, and you must have either put that on a recent blog post or reposted. Because I remember seeing that recently. Yeah. And you afterwards you said, "Go ahead and try it. Your legs will feel like Jello."
I got off the trainer and almost fell. My legs were like rubber. So it does. There's some, you know, that's back to the minimalist approach, you know, kind of getting the most. You know, if you got 30 minutes and that's all you've got, there's ways to train for that. You know,
right.
So, you know, the whole time crunched athlete type of stuff. Great book. If you don't have it or anybody doesn't have it, get it and read it.
I don't have that one, but maybe I should get my coach a copy of it because he decided to give me a 2-hour run on a Thursday because we all have that kind of time.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I do that just because I'm irritated that day, and you're the recipient of it. I did that kind of on my birthday. Okay, it's my birthday weekend a couple weekends ago. It was my birthday weekend, so everybody's got to suffer for it.
Yeah, that's what you titled it too. John Suffer Run.
That's what I call it. I call it to everyone.
Clients must pay.
Clients must pay today. John gets old, clients pay. That's okay. I don't mind getting old. But I did want to talk about social media and I mean, like I said, we've got a good group in there. And the reason someone made a comment the other day that, I don't know, it was Nancy that posted a thing about her injury. And we're going to get into that in like injury stuff, not about hers, but injury stuff later. But, and she got some good feedback in which was good. And I like to see that kind of thing. And, but then somebody, I think it was maybe Rob Nadeau or something, if that's how you say his name, mentioned that it was nice that you could share something like that and not worry about it getting all over the place because it's a closed group.
Right.
You know, and that was the reason for making it a closed group because I wanted people to feel safe in there. And that's the way I do. I mean, I'm not trying to be like a Facebook Nazi by, kind of maintaining order in there to an extent, you know. So there are people that I know have requested to be members of that group that I've turned down that I know were pains in other groups. And I'm not going to allow that kind of, that kind of attitude into the group. And
well, let me say we all appreciate that, John.
Well, and I hope so. But so I want people to feel safe in there to even say, we all know that I share everything, bumps, warts, everything, with everybody. So, to the detriment, to the chagrin of lots of people that know me. It's like, why do you talk about this stuff in public? Because,
John, stop scratching it.
Exactly. But, it all comes down to is like, there are people that share everything, and there are people that get annoyed by people that share everything, right?
Yeah. So. Then there's me in the middle who was like seriously all addicted to Facebook, and it gave me a kind reminder. And I haven't been on Facebook. I hardly ever am. I do pop into the group and like to check things, and I'm usually in there once a day liking things and so forth. Right. I don't really post a lot, and I could probably be better with that. But for a year or two now, I've been using the Facebook Groups app. Yeah. But they discontinued that, so they're forcing you to go back into Facebook. But anyway, so now that I'm going into Facebook, it takes me to, anyone can tell me, is it my homepage, my whatever? I don't even know what it's called. Mm-hmm. But it tells me a kind reminder that it's been 88 weeks since I've updated my something or other. So I'm like, there you go. Oh yeah, I guess when you haven't done it for quite a while, they like to they want to know a little bit more about you. So
the hell with them.
You'll never see that.
Honestly,
88 weeks without John updating.
Facebook is one of those. Facebook is kind of like the two-edged sword. I mean, I have to do it because of the group and because of the business and stuff like that. So I feel like I have to be in there and have to be active, but it can be a pain in the ass sometimes, right?
Yeah. And once again, this is not saying anything against people who do love and are on Facebook all day. But personally, look, why I've gotten off of it a couple of times and the last time it stuck, it's one of those, I'll just pop on real quick and check something. And then a week later, after 1 day to 2 day to 3 day, finally, like I'd be laying there in bed at night and I'd be just scrolling through whatever the feed, basically looking for something of interest. And then if 5 minutes turns into 10, turns into 15. And now I'm like, well, I've been scrolling for 15 minutes looking for something interesting. I better dang well find it now to, I've invested 15 minutes
right.
And then another 15 minutes. And then finally, like, nah, that's ridiculous. So I heard somebody call it once though. And you had said, kind of bring it back around. A lot of people, some, like you say, share everything, and then some people get annoyed that share everything. But I'm actually not opposed to people when I say who share everything. That's their personal opinion. But for everyone else, you need to realize most people. I heard it said this way: Facebook is the world's biggest brag corner. If they go and bang out a 5-mile run at a best pace, they're putting it up there. Or if they get a new car, they're putting it up there, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's always going to be the best of the best. And then it sometimes makes other people feel like, well, hell, I don't have that much great going on here. And, you do. It's just, these people are being very selective about,
Sure.
what they put up.
Exactly.
And they only want to put forth the best of the best.
But the way I look at it, and I've said to other people before, and there's a really good book I'm listening to on Audible right now. I can't tell you the name of it because it uses an F word in the title of the book. But
Farfanugan?
I cannot. Yes, exactly. The magic, the life-changing magic of not giving a farfanugan.
Nice.
But she makes a good point in the audio, and it's a point I tend to agree with, is that I cannot be responsible for how you feel. If
Right. I
meant no harm, do I really need to care that you took offense to it, or that you felt bad because I said something that I mean, it goes back to, it used to irritate me a lot, the humble brag. Say, oh, man, I had a really bad run today. Only managed 9-minute miles. Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, man. And that used to irritate me. But, now it's like, good for you. 9-minute miles are great,
Yeah.
But I can't, if I post on there that, I'm having a great day, this is this, and it makes somebody feel bad because their life isn't as great. I can't care about that. That's not my issue.
Right.
That's your issue. And
it's like you listen into conversations that my wife and I have, because there's a lot that goes into the verbiage and a lot that goes into the tone. And we'll have a conversation and she'll sit back and get mad or upset and say, you said this. I'm like, I didn't say that. Well, that's what your tone inflects. I'm like, no, I have something going on, and we all do it to certain people at certain times. And that's where, but it's a nice little, but we've been together, now over, a decade. So at this point, it's when I look at her, and like you said, you can't worry about, excuse me, what others, how they interpret it. And that's when I say, listen, you're thinking I said it that way. I didn't mean it that way. I am sorry that you're upset and that I said something that you took to make it upset, but you need to at least realize I'm acknowledging you being upset. You need to acknowledge that I'm not trying to make you upset. So
yeah. Somebody said to me the other day that we were talking about it at work, and someone said to me that the issue, John, is that you're a jokester and you find things funny, and not everybody has the same sense of humor as you do. And
that's true. That's true.
So you have to understand that you some of the things you say might react on people a little differently.
Right. My wife and I are on the same page with that, though, and certain things that should be very good, which some people might think inappropriate. So if I ever meet any of you guys in person, we're out running and you trip and fall or you flip over the handlebars on your bike, my first inclination is, like, once I know you're not dead, is to laugh. Yeah. That's it. So like literally, and I sent you a photo. I didn't share it into the group, because once again, I don't share anything apparently, but I was working at my wife's office last night, cutting out old plumbing. And I mean, I have a pretty gnarly gash on my arm. So, and she doesn't do well with blood, but there was another girl that was there. So it lives upstairs, and apartment. So I kind of walked over and I said, I'm Taylor. Had my arm behind my back so my wife didn't see it bleeding. I said, I'm going to need some Band-Aids and some gauze. My wife just looked at me because I was running a saw and said, how many fingers did you lose? I said, I didn't lose any. And I said, it looks worse than it is. But that's it. Then as soon as she saw it, she started laughing, but it's, oh, well. I don't know why I took us down that little trip, but I'm sorry. But
I think I think I'm the same way, actually. My first instinct is to laugh. And, and it doesn't mean that I'm not feeling for you. I mean, if I know you're not hurt, it's probably going to be funny to me. And especially if it's like, there was a time when I was first starting and we were out for a group ride and Jennifer Coltrera was ahead of me. And she was far ahead of me, as she usually was, on the ride. And I could see her coming to a stop. And then all of a sudden she just like did a slow fall to the side and just fell over. It was hilarious. Is it because the whole image of just her kind of slowly falling to the side?
Yeah,
she wasn't hurt, obviously, but it's just funny, But I think what it comes down to in social media is like where you have to make the disconnect is worrying about what others think. It's one thing to put it out there. I used social media and the blog originally 7-8 years ago when I started as a way to hold myself accountable. Mm-hmm. Right. So I cannot worry about, if I'm holding myself accountable, I'm not worrying about what you think about what I'm doing.
Okay.
Right? That's not true.
Did you previously though?
I did. There were times that I did care about what people thought, and I did care if I went in waves. Let me say that there was a times where I was irritating people, and I've talked about this in the previous shows that when it's kind of like when you kind of like have your epiphany and your aha moment about health or whatever it is, you almost become a zealot for a while. Uh-huh. So I was kind of being an ass for a while, with people that were obviously misinformed, let's say. So
differences of opinions, but and I'll get into this too, but it's one thing to, well, let me not jump ahead. But I became a zealot for a while, and I've backed off a lot on that. I'm more accepting and say, okay, well, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe, and I'm not going to try to change your mind. I'm going to tell you what I know. Right.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dietitian or anything like that, but I read everything. And if it's based in science, I'm more apt to believe it.
You and your science,
me
John.
And my science. But I'm one of these geeks that will read studies. And will, like, if I see a study mentioned, I'm going to download that study from the National Institute of Health and read that study. I was
going to say, are we nearing in on that? Whatever, I don't even know, John. You posted something in the group. And said, I'm going to put this here and just stand back.
I'm just going to stand back.
I clicked at it and looked at it, and it looked like an algebra problem. I'm like, nope.
I love that stuff. Right? Yeah, and that's what I'm getting to. Is like, I don't care if you disagree with me on things like that, and that's fine. But read the study. Mm-hmm. Don't just say, "Well, I don't think that's true." Well, why don't you think that's true? I want to hear. Why don't you think that's true? And tell me where the study went wrong. And it probably did go wrong. And Brent did that actually. He said, "Well, this is where they went wrong. This is an issue right here." And I said, "Yep, that's right." They were a little bit biased there. I've told people before, when you get into these studies, the first thing to look for is who funded it.
Yeah.
If you're reading a study that sugar does not make you fat, look who funded it. And I guarantee it's probably Coca-Cola.
Yep.
Right? Or somebody like that. So, be a little bit leery about who's funding these studies, off and on. But,
right.
But to say that it's kind of like, well, I won't say that, but it's people like debunking things because that's just not how they feel. It's fine. Right. You can do that. That's fine. You can do that. But, that's a little bit, I'm not going to really take you seriously if you don't take the time to at least read it or try to understand what they're saying, because where they're coming from, if it's based in science and they've done the studies and they've put the hamsters on the wheel, so to speak, You can't. I mean, you can debunk it, but there's backup. At least debunk it with something that's valid, not your feeling, right?
Right.
The study we were talking about, if you're not on the group, was that I knew it was going to cause some, and it didn't cause as much as I thought it would. But it was basically saying that training for a marathon is harder than training for an Ironman.
Now, once again, I'm admitting I didn't read it. I tried to, couldn't get through the abstract on it, and said, no, John will talk about this. Yeah. So my question that they get to, because I noticed, and you can share and enlighten the group, maybe here, the show audience, with what was in that? Where were they getting their data? Because you and I had discussed, and I've heard it said many times from you, some people believe, and I believe that they're correct as well, that if raced being air quotes, meaning I'm going to say sprinted, a 5K can be harder than a half marathon.
Right.
And or the training for that, because to try to get a minute faster, from 21 to 20 is going to take an enormous amount of effort. But you can easily, I say easily, I'm not belittling it, but you can easily knock, 13 minutes off of a half marathon if you got a minute per mile faster. Right. So you can make a bigger stride there, but trying to get a minute per mile faster when you're already down at a 7 to a 6 makes a heck of a difference, type of deal. So is that the argument, or where they were going with it, or what were they? Because I saw they were looking at data, and I'm assuming heart rates and some other training volume and so forth.
Right. The basic gist of it at the end was that an Ironman, people that train for full Ironmans, 140.6 Ironmans, I shouldn't say Ironman, 140.6 long distance triathlons, they train longer because there's 3 disciplines, right? So you're training 30 hours a week.
There's 3 disciplines, but I got to bring up a valid point that was brought up in the group. It's 3 disciplines, but it's one sport. Training for the run off the bike is not the same as training for a bike. Sorry, brought up. So before somebody calls you out on it.
Well, and I've talked about that, and I hope people know I fully agree with that. Training for a marathon is not the same as training for a run off a bike, even though it's still a marathon distance. There's a reason why they talk about the Ironman shuffle, because that's how most people are running. Most normal people are running after that bike.
Not you, John. You're special.
Not me. I'm walking for like 10 miles. The basic gist of it was that the amount of stress put on your body is higher during a marathon training, strict marathon training, than it is for Ironman training. And they did it by heart rate, and they did it by just lactic acid buildup and things like that. And they were using elite athletes that they were doing this study with, right?
Okay.
And not just 1 or 2. I think it was 30. So it wasn't just study. It was an interesting study to me, and a lot of things I'll find like that I just find interesting. I may not agree with it totally, but it's an interesting. It was an interesting study. Reading studies is not for everybody. I mean, I've even told people that I don't read every word myself. Sometimes I just read the abstract and I'll look at the graphs and the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. So, I'll read the statistics and see if I can grasp it. If I can't grasp it, I'll look into it a little bit more. Bit more. But I encourage people to share what they're doing on the group, but to maintain some level of mutual respect, about everybody's different journey. We got people in there that that swim 7 miles. I can't swim 7 miles. I don't even know how they do it.
Have you swam 7 miles this year?
No. But I will say this. I signed up today. I don't know if you saw it in the group. I signed up today for St. Anthony's Triathlon next year.
I didn't see that. Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm going to do it through Team in Training, which I haven't done that in a while. St. Anthony's was my first Team in Training event in 2012. I haven't done it since 2013, so it's been 5 years. I went back and looked at my times in 2012 and 2013. And 2012, my swim was 43 minutes for 0.9 miles. Okay.
That's
All right.
okay.
43 minutes. That was my first Olympic triathlon.
Yep.
In 2013, my swim was 18 minutes.
I got a little better.
Yeah, that's a huge jump in a year, right? That shows you the amount of time I put into swimming, right?
Right.
And you have to remember in St. Anthony's that the water, I think they shortened it a little bit, to be honest. If I'm remembering 2013 right, I think it was shortened a little bit, so it was a little bit different that way, but it wasn't that much of a difference. The water can be very rough there, so they've had to cancel swims a number of times there. But
that's an open, water ocean swim, I assume.
It is. It used to be along the pier. If you're from this area, it used to be along the pier in St. Petersburg. But they were having to cancel the swim so many times because it's just like a washing machine. It's really it can be really bad. So now they started on the beach side, and you go out into the bay. So the first maybe, I wouldn't even say half, maybe quarter of it is along the beach, and it's not very far out. So you got a little bit of time to kind of acclimate and get into the rhythm before you head out into the bay.
Right.
Do that left turn and then kind of do a square back in.
Okay.
And I remember 2013. I was really good, and then you get down that bay, and then you're hitting those swells. But I was in a good groove by that point. So,
right,
much better way to do it, I think, because it does give people a chance to acclimate. People like me that it bothers.
Right.
So I'm in a triathlon next year officially now. So.
Let's see how many people from the group want to come down and join John and go out and either participate or cheer him on.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk people into it. I'm doing my best. So, I mean, just to kind of close out the social approval stuff, I mean, you have to stop worrying about what people think. You have to stop worrying about, they call it in an article, mind reading. Stop worrying about, recognizing when you're trying to read other people's mind and refocus on what you need to do, right? Stop worrying about when I'm in the run, when you're in a run saying, oh my God, I'm so slow. What are these people going to think of me?
Yeah.
And especially with me, and I've done this and I still do it. I catch myself doing it. If I don't finish this race well, what are the people in the Endurance for Everyone group going to think?
We're going to think that you're a heck of a guy, John.
Yeah, but that's still in my head. I do think that. I do think like.
Well, I can see why, and I'll say it. I was joking there a little bit, being sarcastic, but I can see why you would think that. Especially, you're saying almost like, "Hey, I'm in the public eye because I'm out there doing this, right. And people know I'm going to talk about it and write about it and so forth." But for everyone else like me, who's just an average guy out there having fun and doing it, I guess that's something where, and I've said it before. Maybe it's me. I just don't care much what people are thinking or worrying. Now, granted, I think a lot of very negative things when I see the race photos, like, holy crap, is that what I actually look like?
Yes.
But, when I'm out there in the moment, I'm really not paying much attention to what people have going on. I'm not watching too much about the participants. I'm not worrying too much about the spectators, you know what I mean? Because, hey, participants are some people, they're going to beat me. There's some people I'm going to beat. Spectators, maybe it's me judging, and some people want to use that, but I'm doing it. I'm out here. I don't care how sweaty and terrible I look. I'm out here and I'm doing it, and I'm having fun while doing it. And that's my goal. That's why I'm out there doing it. Of course, I mean, that being said, though, after looking at some race photos and realizing that my blonde hair streaks back and makes me look much balder than I am, I do like to run with a hat on. So I guess I do give in a little bit to it. So.
That's something I work on all the time. I catch myself doing it. When I catch myself doing it, I try to pull back from it. And it really all comes down to how much self-respect you have, right? If you don't, you have to be okay with yourself. And maybe that's where I fall short a little bit, just to get a little psychological, but you have to be okay with who you are and what you've put in and what your accomplishments have been, right? And
right.
If you're not okay with that, you are going to worry a little bit more about what people think of you. If you're a man in full, as they say, which it sounds like you are, and I think Randy Messman was the same way, is that, you don't really care what other people think. And when that happens, I think that's when you really kind of let that go. And there are times it's like I had a coach, not Megan or KC, but another one with Team and Train. They used to say, "Nobody's looking at you, John."
Yeah, they're all worried about their own problems.
You think they're looking at you. They don't care about you.
Yeah.
The only one that cared about me was the guy in Augusta that told me to get my fat ass off the course. I haven't mentioned that in a while, have I?
No, you got to bring that one back up.
That's an old. Always come back around. Dust that one off, right? But that's what it comes down to. And I think to kind of segue into the one I wanted to end up with was when you're struggling with not only your abilities, but I think when you've been hurt and you're injured, I think that really starts, and you're trying to get through an injury. I think that a lot of people, especially people that are really either like really elite athletes or really not even elite, but really good at what they do, I think it affects them, and I think it affects the ones that are just trying to get started.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
So you're saying the Jan Brady of the middle, bringing it back to your old school. Bring Jan Brady's in the middle here, John. We're different than the elites in the back of the group there. You're saying they're just getting started, I should say.
I don't know. I go back and forth because now when I'm saying that, I'm thinking people that used to be like I used to be in shape. I mean, Mark Maron has a new, if you know him, he's a comedian, but he had a show on for a while on Netflix. You can still find it. But he was saying that people have to say, when I used to be in shape, and then he goes, I start thinking about, I don't think I ever was in shape. But I like to think that like when I was 20 years old and I was banging barbells around and going to the gym 5 times a week and being all cut and pumped and everything. It's like, I don't think I was ever like that. But I tend to think that I was, Yeah. I'm pretty much the same as I ever was, I wasn't, and I think a lot of us weren't. And I think the ones of us that weren't and get injured, like I was dealing with up through Vermont.
Your foot.
Yeah. It can be very mentally exhausting. I've said this recently, to be injured and not be able to do what you want to do. Right. We know a few people that are injured, and I think that's what the group is good for too, is to be able to put that out there and say, look, I'm really struggling with this. What others that have done this, how did you get through this? Right.
And with that, and I feel, and knock on wood as I say it, I've been extremely lucky in the decade or so that I've been doing this stuff. No major injuries. For the last year and a half, 2 years, I've had a tight Achilles that I have to, some days I wake up, it's tight and I hobble down the steps, but then, once I'm moving, it stretches back out. But I have not really had any major issues. I haven't pulled anything. I haven't broke anything, strained or sprained. Occasionally, I wake up with a purple foot. I had it looked at. There's nothing wrong with it, and they're not real sure why. They give me pretty much one of them steroid packs that steps down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, knocks it out in about 3 days. No, they tested blood and everything. They don't know what it is, but it's happened about 3 times over the last 10 years. Other than that, I haven't really had anything else. Right. So I feel very fortunate that I can't share much in this topic about injuries, but almost anyone and everyone I know has suffered one. My friend Brian, who I go out running and biking with, he's the one that's just so much better than me at everything. Mm-hmm. He was going, when I first started running and cycling with him, he was just coming back after about a year off or a year and a half off because of knee issues, and it kind of felt good to be a little bit of an inspiration for him to to get him back into it, because he saw the stuff that I was doing that got him a little bit inspired to get back into it, and he has since done another marathon, and him and I ride bikes. He's the guy that I go for the 30-mile long rides with and so forth. So, and having seen it, like you said, I've seen the process from him about talking about how he used to be faster and how he used to be able to do so much more, and how he feels terrible when he's just sitting around not able to do anything, and it's a little bit of a spiral. Now, granted, he's still 40 pounds lighter than me and is just like has a body that I would kill for. But, then that puts him into his spiral where he starts drinking a little bit more Mountain Dew, eating a couple more desserts, and, he feels fatter, out of shape and everything. And once again, he's still 2 minutes, 3 minutes per mile faster than me on the run. So it can strike anyone at, I guess, any time and any ability level.
Yeah, and I think where it really starts messing with your head, almost used a Farfanugan word again there, but when it starts messing with your head is that when you're especially when you're first starting out and you're starting to make progress. And you're starting to see maybe the weight coming off, or you're starting to see that pace per mile going down or getting faster, and you're starting to hit, consistently 18 to 20 miles on the bike, and you pull a hamstring. Mm-hmm. And now you're out of it for a while. I think that gets really frustrating. As I said, we've had a few people in the group that have been injured, that are going through injuries right now, and I think the one. And this is like a life lesson too, but I think the one thing that has to be focused on is that you can only focus on what's in your control. Right? Mm-hmm. We don't like what's the unknown. We don't like not being able to do things. But if you have a hurt knee, you might still be able to ride the bike or swim, right? Mm-hmm. So there's things you can still do. So you focus on, instead of lamenting the fact that you can't run, right? Or you can't run a 10-minute or 9-minute mile now, but you might be able to still walk, 2 miles. You might be able to still get on your bike, and you definitely can get in the pool, right? Mm-hmm. So there's things you can do. So you focus on the things that you can control, that you can handle, and stop worrying about what you can't. And when I was injured, that's what Megan did with me. She knew I couldn't run, so we focused on walks, power walking, just doing as much as I could. Maybe getting on the bike, as I said, getting on an elliptical, which still hurt my foot, but and what a mind-numbing machine that is.
Yep.
But so instead of worrying about like the what ifs, and sometimes, and the next thing is sometimes you have to adjust your goal, right? Now I got some blowback for this because I talked about Vermont, and when I got there, I knew I was hurt. I was saying instead of focusing on that 100 miles or the 100 miles, I said, well, maybe I can get a couple of loops. Yeah. And start, it's like jacking it back a little bit. It's not a defeatist attitude to know that and we've said it on the show before, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Hurt, you can work through. Injured, you can't.
Yeah.
When I can't take a step without it hurting, it's ridiculous for me to try to go do something like that because I'm going to make it worse. And that's how I felt. And you have to, you actually have to have the strength to know that about yourself. If you can be the strongest athlete in the world, you have to know when to stop. And it's not a failure, at least in my eyes, it's not a failure to give something a try and not make it or have to pull out because you're injured.
Right.
I think what is a failure is that, I say it that way, but I think where the issues happen is that you're not even willing to try.
Right.
Or you get up that morning, God, it's so early. I really don't feel like getting out of bed. I think I'll just blow this race off. That's a problem. Then you really don't want to do it. But if you still get up, if you still drive, in my case, 1,000 miles,
half the country,
1,000 miles to run 8, I still got out there. So regardless of what a few others thought, I felt like I gave it a shot. Mm-hmm. Others felt differently, but like you said, I really don't care what they think. So, that's being that what it is. I mean, Brent saw me at a 12K for Earth Day last year. I ran with Brent. He won the race, but he saw me limping around that course. He saw it, So it's not like, and I was doing my best to get out there and just still try to work through things, even though after a mile I could barely step.
Right.
So I mean, I think adjusting your goals is, you're not going to go out there if you've got a screwed up knee or a torn hamstring or, anything like that. You're not going to go out there and run an 8-minute mile. So you have to adjust. You might still be able to do a 14-minute mile, but depending on how you are. So the basic thing is that injuries suck, and you have to be able to handle it, right?
Right.
So
part of that, and the only thing I was thinking here, and I'm not a complete thought, so everyone, please forgive me if this doesn't make much sense. You can't always control. John, you said focus on things that are in your control. Right. There's certain things you can't control. Even at that point, changing your mind or changing your mindset on things takes sometimes just a second. Sometimes it takes years. But if you're injured and you're having a problem, John was here just saying, you can slow down your run, you can walk, you can bike. There's two things you can always control. You can control what goes into your mouth, right, and you can control what comes out of it. Right. So even if you're injured, you can work on your diet. You can work on what you're fueling your body with. It's a good time to really sit back. You're going to have a decreased workload. You can work on, I'm not advocating anything here, but when I say do what's right for you, maybe it's a little bit less calories. Maybe it's an intermittent fast. Maybe it's changing. Maybe now's the time to change your diet. Hey, you don't want to mess with completely changing your diet when you're halfway through a marathon training cycle and risk, stomach upset and losing runs in weeks and so forth there. Right. So that's one thing you could shift your focus on. The other thing is say you can focus on what comes out of your mouth. Even if you have a negative thought, take a second, sit back, and maybe not say it. It's that old, what is it, adage? If your mom tells you if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Right. So if you're going to say something or you're going to fire off, or even if it's negative or self-deprecating, you don't say it. Instead, say something different. Say something positive that you're going to do, or something positive that you accomplished. If nothing else, it'll help put you in a better mindset. I mean, I don't have any data or any studies here in front of me, but every single one of us knows, we've read it and heard it, that, the placebo effect, somebody who is given a fake sugar pill feels better just because of the power of the mind, right. So I'm not saying that just thinking happy thoughts is going to make your Achilles, suddenly fuse back together if you've torn it in two, but it's going to help you readjust and, okay, maybe the Ironman is off the table for this year. Maybe it's, the marathon or whatever your goal was. Like John, you said you might have to readjust. Big part of that is not just doing it, is not just saying, okay, I'm canceling, I'm changing it. Big part of it's being okay with that internally. And that this is not right in this line, but it's same for me. I've done the Dam Tri in Meadville. It was my first triathlon. I did it every single year. Every year. It was their first year. It was my first year. I had to miss it this year because I wasn't in town, because I just come back from one family vacation and we were going on in a different route to a different place, and I couldn't be there. That bothered me tremendously, that I had to miss, because it's just in my head, it made sense. I did this every year and I'm going to do this race every year. And it's just a little scary. Now, when I say scary, it's like, hey, I didn't do it. Am I going to do it next year? Am I doing it every 3 years? Am I never going to do it again? I don't know. I just took it for granted that I was doing it every year. I wasn't injured. I just wasn't around. I couldn't do it. So I do get that sense of uneasiness. But, hey, that another way to look at it is, okay, so maybe I don't do that race now every year, but let's start looking for, and that it's a little bit freeing. I can now look for other races in other areas. Maybe I start, going across the Ohio border or southwestern PA, New York. There's all kind of places I can go to look for more races. I just never had, because I was very set in the mindset of that's this weekend, and of course I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I think I got in the mindset for a while that I wanted to travel for races, and so I was going all over the place, and through team and training for a lot of them, the bike ride in Tahoe, the Fletcher Flyer in North Carolina, things like that. Now I am, I say that, but I am going to Runner's World here in about a month. So,
yep.
But that was one last year that I had to back out of. because of the injury. But
right.
I was right at the beginning of the injury. So what my refocus is that I'm not doing any races that aren't local. And that's why I just, I started looking at the money that was being spent on these races sometimes. And did I really need to be spending this kind of money and traveling when there's races here? This is Florida. We have races.
You can race year round.
Yeah, I can race here. The funny thing is, at St. Anthony's, when I was talking to the captain of the St. Anthony's team here, just messaging, trying to get the lay of the land, I asked her when does training start. Now, last time I did St. Anthony's, like I said, was 5 years ago. Our training started in January. Okay, for the April race. It's starting in October this year.
That's much earlier.
Much earlier.
They doubled.
But the bottom line here is that we're going to be training through the winter here, when a lot of other people can't.
John, you got to put that in air quotes.
Well, winter, right? The air bunnies are up. Winter, our winter. You know when winter is here, right? January 12th.
It does. Won't visit then.
Yeah, I mean, the Gulf might get down to like 68. I'll tell you the other, what was it, a few weekends ago, I went camping one weekend and we headed out to Fort DeSoto Park, which is the first triathlon I ever did. Went into the water. It was hot. The water was hot. It had to have been 90 degrees. Now, I know a lot of people.
We don't have that issue up here.
Yeah. See, I know people hear that and say, oh my God, I like that. I mean, I can swim in that. Cold water irritates me because I can't breathe. And I don't like wearing a wetsuit. I like wearing the wetsuit because it's buoyant, but I have a hard time breathing in one because I'm fat. Let's be honest. I'm heavy. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. So,
wetsuits are tight on everyone, John.
Yeah, I know, but they only make them so big. One
size fits most.
Yeah, it's constricting. I'm not trying to be self-deprecating, but I guess I am. But what I'm saying is that it's hard to breathe in one. The coldest water swim I did was the HITS triathlon about 4 years ago, and the water was, I think, maybe 65.
Wow, that's chilly.
That was enough to take my breath away. I got through it. There's pictures on my Facebook page of me coming out of that water, though, and I was not happy. But
you weren't loving life at that point, John?
That was the race I'd actually pulled an Achilles 2 weeks before the race. And it took me, I did okay in the swim and the bike, and then the run took me almost 4 hours because I had to walk almost the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I got through it.
Completed it.
I did complete that race. Yeah, I was miserable by the end of it. But so anyway, so I mean, when you talk about injuries, I mean, I welcome people to share not only their issues in the group or message us if you want us to talk about it or anything like that, but for people to, offer their opinions, say, okay, I had an Achilles issue and this is what I did. I talked about my foot that for almost a year they were telling me it was my Achilles, and it turned out to not be my Achilles. So I was doing all this work to strengthen my Achilles, and they said it was plantar.
The issue.
They said it was plantar fasciitis. I was being told everywhere plantar fasciitis, and it wasn't. And I finally found the doctor said, no, this is not plantar fasciitis. You've got some inflamed nerves on the inside of your foot. Look at it. And he did the sonogram. The only doctor that found it gave me a shot into the nerve. Three shots I got in the nerve. The nerve's quieted down. Foot's fine. Haven't had any problems since.
So, that's why you stopped talking about it.
Yeah,
because it went away.
Doesn't hurt. Now I will say, Megan asked me today about it. I will say that, like right after a longer run, it hurt. It doesn't hurt, but I know it's there. My heel hurts and stuff like that. The next day, it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's recovering faster because the nerves aren't constantly inflamed.
Right.
So
good.
So I would caution people that I think plantar fasciitis is one of those easy diagnoses like fibromyalgia that everybody uses. When they can't really explain what is wrong. Find a doctor that that'll like really listen to what you're saying And if you truly have plantar fasciitis and you're doing all of these things that are supposed to aid in that recovery and it's not working, you may not have it.
Yeah.
Stop.
And I think that's where having the group out there, I think, like you had said it several times here, the group is very supportive, and or the collection of knowledge that everyone in the group is going to have. If you shoot it out there, if you're having an issue, right, you don't need necessarily, I'm not a doctor, you don't need to do everything that everybody's saying, but you might pick up on the one thing that's going to work for you, right, or the one thing that you hadn't considered. Like you said, John, how many people did you have look at your foot? But it was finally the last one that figured it out. Right.
Yeah. And when he showed it to me, he was the only one that put a sonogram on it, and he showed it to me. He said, "Look at this. He said, this is all white here. This is all aggravated nerves right here." I said, well, there it is. But anyway, so we're coming up on our time, so we're going to go ahead and end that. I want to make sure that I mention the Zendurance Now coaching. Mention the show, mention the blog, mention either of us, mention Ronald McDonald and the Juggaloos, or whatever you want to mention, and you get $100 off your first session, your first month, or whatever it was.
Ronald McDonald. You don't want to go with the other clown that's closer to my name, John? Come on.
What's the other clown that's closer to your name?
What's the first 4 letters of my last name? Bozo.
Oh, Bozo. I was thinking your first name. It's like there's a clown named Rob.
Yeah, he's famous.
Now I'm thinking Twisty, and I'm thinking Pennywise, and so other clowns not as nice.
Make me a bicycle clown.
Yeah, make me a bicycle clown. See if people know where that's from.
I think everyone does.
Yeah, it's one of those.
That's
movies,
why.
Right?
When Andy was doing his balloon thing, I actually had contacted him about maybe coming up here to do an event. I solely was going to sponsor it for the reason that I wanted to stand there and shout that at him. I just thought it'd be awesome. Make
me a bicycle clown. And if anybody doesn't know what movie that's from, Google it. It's funny. His reaction,
and then watch it.
Yeah, and then watch it. It's a funny movie.
I'm going to make you a bicycle. I'm not going to like it.
I'll find you. So, anything else, Rob?
Nothing from me.
All right, man. We might start next week. We might start recording on a different day, so you might get like 2 shows real quick. We have a few people that we're talking to maybe bring on as guests. We won't say who they are yet, though. Rob, you might do that on your own.
I might, if I can figure out how to use a computer.
You're doing pretty good.
Good. Yeah, I sit here. Dawn calls and I hit answer. Yeah. I've gotten that far. So far.
Oh, that was a problem at first, even, remember?
It was. So once you know all the problems, you just try to avoid them.
That's right. All right, so until next time, we will talk at you later.
Sounds good.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.
Zendurance Now Coaching, the relentless pursuit of excellence. Are you looking to increase your fitness level, get stronger, or reach a new goal? There are many people who share that same desire, but often life or injuries get in the way, and their progress slows or even stops. Professional coaching brings a unique element to staying focused, developing the right fitness and nutrition plan, and having a certified coach to help you stay on target and reach your goals. Zendurance Now helps you reach your goals through customized training plans, one-on-one consultation, and constant motivation. Whether you're a local or remote, we've got this. Visit www.zendurancenow.com and learn how we can help you.